Robots are as common as people in this world, and everyone has at least one in their home to assist them with their daily tasks. However, the owners of androids were divided into two groups. The ones who see them as useful tools because the androids can only perform tasks assigned to them by their masters, and then there are those who treat them just like any other person. They become so attached to their android that they become emotionally as well as physically dependent on them. Rikuo was a brilliant pianist who won numerous competitions and was widely admired. However, after only one listen, he noticed an android playing the same music that he had spent years perfecting. He was deflated, wondering what the point of his practice was if robots could easily replicate his talent. Rikuo hasn't been able to find joy in playing the piano since then, and he no longer does. Sammy, an android, belongs to Rikuo's family. Rikuo relies on her for everyday tasks like making coffee, preparing breakfast, and picking up his drunk older sister from parties when his parents are away. Rikuo constantly employs Sammy, but he does not treat her with respect. In fact, he despises her. In Sammy's logs, he noticed something strange, a message asking if she was enjoying the Times of Eve cafe. Rikuo had a feeling something was wrong with Sammy because she'd been going out on her own more recently, even deviating from her usual errand routes. So he showed it to Misaki, one of his friends. Rikuo was convinced that something sinister was going on. He needed assistance, and Misaki appeared to be the only person who could help him. Rikuo was determined to uncover the android's evil plot for world dominance using Sammy's GPS tracker. He and his friend arrive at an alley with an odd building, wondering if there are any robots there. But then, one appears out of nowhere and walks inside. They follow it and open the door to find a cafe. There's even a sign on the wall welcoming them, but it comes with some rules. The board declared that everyone who entered the cafe, whether human or android, would be treated equally. The only other rule was that everyone should have fun. They are perplexed about the other customers because they saw an android enter for some reason, but everyone inside appears to be human. It seems strange that no one in the cafe wore a halo. Androids often feature red halos that become green when their masters give them an instruction, but everyone here was sipping coffee, something robots don't do. As they ordered Everblend, the cafe's proprietary blend, the two got more suspicious. They begin to wonder about the peculiar mix of humans and androids. A cheery girl called Akiko arrives out of nowhere and introduces herself and the other customers inside. Koji and Rina are usually so nice at their table together, like genuine lovebirds. Satoru is sitting quietly with a book in his hand, minding his own business. Nagi gives everyone the same delicious coffee mix and ensures that everyone is treated fairly. Finally, there's Shime and Chie, father and daughter. The two continued breaking the rules and discussing how humans differed from androids. Nagi, who had heard everything, was displeased and took away their coffee. Rikuo was curious as to why Akiko frequented the cafe, and he asked her whether her family had any robots. Akiko said yes and stated that both humans and androids have emotions and that she wants to understand them. This notion stuck with him after he left the cafe, even while he was at school, and it contradicted everything he had always believed. He then saw Akiko and noticed a halo of light around her head, showing that she was an android. Sammy brewed his coffee at home, but when he took a drink, he noticed something was odd. It's the same mix he drank in the cafe. He questioned her about it, and she confessed to changing the components without his consent. He became enraged and wanted to know whether she was doing anything against his directives. But Sammy merely shook her head and returned to work as if nothing had occurred. He approached Sammy and demanded to know why she had gone out the day before. She tried to avoid his questions and lied, claiming that she was going to get groceries on order from his parents and not to Times of Eve as he suspected. Rikuo informed Misaki that Sammy had denied something she had not been asked to do. Misaki remarked that Sammy must be hiding something and possibly lying. They decided to go to the cafe and catch her, but when they arrive, she is not there. So they decide to wait for her to catch her in the lie. Rikuo notices Akiko and approaches her, but Chie grabs his glasses and flees, hoping that he will play with her. He must pursue her in order to reclaim them, but first, he wants to break the rule and ask Akiko if she's a robot. Shime arrived and explained that it's normal for people to not always tell the truth, especially when it comes to protecting those they care about. Rikuo began to realize that Sammy probably lied because she didn't want him to be hurt, and he finally realized that she had feelings as well. Sammy walked into the cafe to purchase the coffee blend. When Akiko asked if her master liked the coffee blend, Sammy said she wasn't sure. She explained that her master disliked it when she did things on her own. Rikuo went to the counter to get his glasses from Nagi, and as he put them on, he noticed Sammy standing nearby with her hair tied up. He aggressively let her hair down so he could get a better look at her and was too stunned to say anything. He chases her as she flees. However, the door has a special lock to ensure that no one can follow each other and discover their identity. Nagi gently explained to Rikuo how Sammy discovered the cafe and was able to open up and be her true self with them. All she desired was for Rikuo to experience joy and happiness in his life. When he got home, he called Masaki and told him about meeting Sammy in the cafe. Sammy was right beside him, bringing him coffee. He remembered what Nagi said about feeling appreciated, so he smiled at Sammy and thanked her for the coffee, making her smile. Masaki and Rikuo returned to the cafe because Masaki wants to discover what secrets are hidden there, while Rikuo enjoys being there and learning about the androids. Nagi suggests that instead of staring at the other customers, they get to know them. She invites Koji and Rina to come over and join her at the table. She wants them to talk and get to know each other better. They were all standing there, but none of them said anything. Rikuo was staring at Rina's chest, which enraged Masaki, so he slapped Rikuo. Rikuo was fascinated by Koji's camera and inquired about it. He placed the camera beside the cafe's digital display button and was astounded to see Koji's photo appear on the screen. Rina was envious when she saw a photo of Koji with another woman. Rikuo chased her down, only to discover that Rina was an android. She used to be a bodyguard for someone important, but she injured her leg and was abandoned. She eventually met Koji, fell in love with him, and decided to stick by his side despite the fact that he was human. He consoles her, and they return to Masaki and Koji, who are also discussing Koji and Rina's relationship. Koji is an android who works for the woman in the photos, but he has feelings for Rina. His master was so hurt by her previous relationships that she became completely reliant on him, even for the bed dance. Don't ask me how. He wants to please his master and be loyal to her, so he decided to get closer to Rina in order to better understand human emotions and assist her in dealing with that trauma. Because of their behaviors and ability to feel human emotions, both are unaware that the other is an android, further blurring the line between androids and humans. The two boys leave the two lovers alone, realizing that androids can love. When they returned to the cafe, they noticed an old-looking android model walking in. It appeared wobbly and unsteady because it appeared to be worn out and not functioning properly. The robot approached Rikuo and Masaki and asked politely if it could join them. They were taken aback at first, but before they could respond, the robot explained that, according to the cafe's rules, it was permitted to be present just like any other customer. Masaki introduces himself and Rikuo, explaining that it is natural for people to introduce themselves. The android attempts to imitate them and introduce itself, but breaks its head because it cannot recall its name. The android adjusts its head and returns, still behaving strangely while Nagi attempted to take its order. Rikuo, on the other hand, remained calm and finished his coffee. He was afraid that if he didn't speak up, the android would overheat and explode. As a result, he quickly ordered for himself and allowed the android to copy him. When the coffee arrived, they tried everything they could to keep it from drinking it because androids don't drink coffee. To divert its attention, they asked it questions like how old it was and where it came from. It was 8 years old, and they compared it to Chie. Much to their surprise, the android did not explode after drinking the coffee through a tube attached to its neck, making the two realize that their stunts must have made them appear stupid. Nagi approaches the android to ask about its past, and the android tells them that it was hired to care for a child who drew a picture, but it doesn't remember the child it was caring for. It doesn't even remember the address of the household where it worked, which causes it to malfunction when it realizes it doesn't even remember its own name. Nagi hugs it as it begins to shut down. Rikuo awoke to find Sammy had prepared breakfast for him, and as he ate, he read the newspaper that had been announcing his grand prize victory in a previous competition. The thought of playing piano filled him with nostalgia, and even in class, his hands moved on their own as if he were playing an imaginary piano. Masaki brought over a report he found on his father's desk. It was about an experiment in which they created androids to care for children. This led them to believe Shimei was an android watching over Chie. Rikuo was surprised to discover that Chie was not with her father when he arrived at the cafe. He asked Chie why Shimei wasn't there, and she explained that he wasn't her biological father, but rather her foster father. Rikuo asked Nagi what was going on and discovered that Shimei wasn't always there for Chie. He wanted to know why Shimei kept hurting Chie by leaving her alone, but she became upset and ran away. Satoru, with whom Rikuo had never spoken before, explained to him that sometimes people hurt others without even realizing it. Rikuo was so upset by the answer that he stomped away from the table and plopped himself down in the loft, where he promptly fell asleep. Rikuo awoke to the sound of a familiar melody in the cafe and notices Sammy playing his song on the piano. As he descended, memories from his time there filled his mind. He had unexpectedly come to enjoy the cafe, particularly with the androids whom he had previously disliked. Sammy apologized for playing, explaining that Chie enjoyed it. She explains that she once played this song to Chie because she misses listening to Rikuo play the piano. He sits at the piano, telling them that he stopped playing at home because Sammy was becoming curious and he was afraid she would become better than him, but he doesn't care anymore. He performs the song flawlessly, leaving Chie eager for more. By the end, Rikuo revealed that he had begun to enjoy his time at the cafe. Masaki has been behaving strangely recently, refusing to go to the cafe. They ultimately figure out why. Masaki's father appears on TV as the chairman of the ethics committee. They are opposed to androids building ties with people because they believe the androids are scheming something against mankind. As a result, the committee claims to be investigating and shutting down such robots. Rikuo invites Masaki to accompany him, but Masaki declines. But he goes to the cafe after receiving a call from Rikuo informing him that there is a new android at the cafe. Masaki was taken aback when he realized it was his robot, Tex. He'd lied to his closest buddy Rikuo about not having one. Masaki ultimately informed Rikuo the truth, revealing the mystery of his connection with Tex with a sad heart. Masaki says that Tex cared for him when he was a youngster, but it abruptly stopped speaking to him. Masaki knew his father had told Tex not to communicate anymore, but he still felt deceived. Tex abruptly started to speak. He began spilling information about the new android that had just arrived at the cafe. The ethics committee had sent the android to inspect the location secretly. Despite his inability to communicate with Masaki, Tex was always eager to keep him safe, so he utilized Masaki's father's office to examine the ethics committee database and uncover what they were examining. Everything was done to keep Masaki out of harm's path. Masaki, who wanted to hear Tex speak since he was a child, prevents the android from departing so that Tex may continue speaking. Despite being told not to speak, Tex is able to do so because of the android law on his chip, which allows him to defy any instructions if his master is in danger. The robot flees and Tex resumes his silence, but Masaki is glad to know that Tex would always be at his side and defend him no matter what. They leave the cafe to inform his father that Tex did not leave the home without Masaki's permission. While Rikuo continues to hang out at the cafe, he realizes that androids cannot rule the world since they have more humanity than humans, particularly Sammy.